Hello, welcome to King Axel's Movie Lounge. Ah, cool new backdrop we got going on behind us. If this is your first time joining the channel, thank you very much. I'm King Axel. I like to do movie reactions and music reactions, although I haven't done any of those in a while because I have a completely new schedule that I'm trying to get my feet under. And on top of that, a lot of discouragement, especially with the movie reactions because of the copyright and the editing process and all of that. So, today we're switching it up and we are following along my new series, Tier List, and we are focused on movies that I have seen in theaters. My first video I did was from 2011 and 2020. I just combined it all because that was a long period of time and I didn't really see a whole lot. So I figured it was easier to do it that way instead of going year by year. And then I did 2021 and now we are up to 2023. So to run through the categories really quickly, same categories as the last two times. We have I'll Never Forget It. Why? Because it was just amazing. Loved it. Liked it. It was okay. Didn't like it. Don't remember it. I fell asleep because occasionally that happens, and I absolutely hated it. So, we're going to see how many of these fall into each category. So, the first one that we have going on here, that looks like Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I believe that was the last movie I saw in 2022. And being completely honest, I was never a huge fan of Black Panther. I understand why people are, and I totally get it. I'm not knocking that aspect of it. I'm glad that it exists. However, it's not my favorite. I don't really like it. I'm gonna have to say I didn't like it. Um, I don't want to say anything too specific because if you have not seen it, I encourage you to go watch it after Black Panther and after Infinity War and Endgame. Definitely go see it. However, for me, because of the things that happen, especially with Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, while I understand, because we do know that Chadwick Boseman sadly passed away. Um, I just didn't like the way that they moved the story to continue it along. Um, there was another movie that was coming out at the same time. And it also took place, I think it was called The African King. I never got to go see that one, but I didn't want to because I was worried that it was trying to capitalize off of the Black Panther coming out. And so I thought that it was kind of a cash grab idea. So comment down below if you guys went to go see it, if it's worth the watch, or if it really was a cash grab. I didn't get to go see that one. Plus, life kind of happened, so I wasn't really able to. So yeah, for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, unfortunately, it just wasn't for me. I didn't like it. Maybe I'll change my mind when I watch it again, because I'm sure someday that I will. But at the time, not for me. Next, we have Avatar Way of Water. Okay, so we saw. I don't want to do this one yet. Let's put this at the end. I'm gonna put that at the end. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to do that one yet. We have the Batman next. Okay, so I definitely liked the Batman. Um, the only thing that I didn't really like was I was hoping at the end when they reveal a new character, I was hoping it would be somebody new. Unfortunately, it was somebody that we've had 7 movies plus, it feels like, with the same villain. And again, I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible, but also give enough context to explain why I felt a certain way about the movie. And so, without giving anything away, the reveal at the end I was hoping it was somebody else, and it turned out to be the person that I was hoping it was not, and that kind of, disappointed me. But overall, the movie as a whole, I thought was really well done. Isn't Zoe Saldana? No, not Zoe. I'm sorry. Zoe Kravitz. Isn't she the new Catwoman? I'm pretty sure she has a series now too. I don't know. I thought Penguin was great, and I do know that he has a series. Um, Robert Pattinson really impressed me as Batman. Um, I'm not gonna say I walked away loving it. I really want there to be. I think he's too old now. He's past his prime. But it would have been amazing for them to put Johnny Depp as Joker in one of those movies. Maybe before Heath Ledger, because I think as great as Johnny is, Heath might have upscaled him and Johnny would kind of, Disney Jack Sparrow it up. But I do believe that he would have made a really, really good one. So there was a lot of talks that he might be it, but it did not come to fruition. So for that reason, I also didn't love it because I was disappointed that we didn't get to see him as a surprise casting. Um, and I didn't particularly like the villain in this one either, but there was enough going for this movie with the camera lighting and the very dark tone that this movie had, in my opinion, really actually sold it even more for me. So I liked it. Avatar. Okay. I saw Avatar in 3D. It was coming out. This is why I put Avatar Way of Water at the end, because I wanted to talk about the first one first. I'm not going to do too many rearranging of which order I want to talk about movies in, but, I really don't want to get to a movie and have to re-explain myself or come out of order. Chronologically, I saw Avatar first. I had seen the movie before, but it's been a long time, and I got to see it in 3D. However, I saw it in IMAX 3D, and I'm gonna be honest, I did not like IMAX 3D. It felt very, I want to say, kind of cardboard cutout. If you go to a shooting range and you pay attention to the targets, well, they're very distinctly behind each other, right? There is no blend, there is no real, like, depth to it in the sense that, like, they blend with the background. It's very staccato. And for that reason, I did not like seeing Avatar in that way. And it gave me a very bad opinion of IMAX 3D to the point where I will never see IMAX 3D again unless I'm dragged to it. So, while the movie itself was good, the 3D was so bad for me, it took away from the story. So, unfortunately, I gotta put this, and I absolutely hated it. I did. I walked away and I was disgusted. I was like, this sucks. I thought, and I was like, I'd seen 3D movies before that were well done. And I was like, what the hell is the problem? So, unfortunately, I have to put that IMAX 3D version of Avatar into absolutely hated it. Next, we have Firestarter. This is the remake that stars Zac Efron. And this is a double feature day, although they were not back to back. I had to go back and see the next one. I like this movie, and a lot of people probably, I know a lot of people didn't. It got like terrible. It got like a 4.4 on IMDb, and many people didn't go see it. I thought it was great. That was pretty good. When you get a Stephen King movie, like you can't be super harsh on it. You can't. There's a lot of horror movies you can't be super harsh on, or else you're gonna walk away and be like, that was dumb. I got a very strong love for Stephen King. And I saw the Drew Barrymore very recently before because I wanted to prepare for this one. The only thing that really, took away from it for me was the stupid trailer. And this was the movie that really sealed the deal for me. I was like, I'm done. Because they showed all of the good parts in the trailer. And so I knew what was going to happen for the most part when I watched the movie. I still think Zac Efron did a good job, and I still like it because it was a Stephen King story. But the trailer, it put everything into it, and I was like, why? Why would you do that? And so from then on, for the most part, I refused to watch trailers of any kind. I would sit on my phone in Letterboxd in the theater until Nicole Kidman finishes her spiel about how movies are us or whatever. So, no, I really will, and I don't care. I do not care. Um, Next we have, I believe that is Star Trek. Yep, that is Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. So I saw the motion picture the year before, and then I got to see Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan from a year. I might be getting my years a little mixed up there, but I felt like separating the two was a good stopping point for 2021. And this was my favorite of all of the Star Trek movies. I thought Star Trek 6 also did a really good job. Star Trek 4 was really fun. Um, I will never forget it. It is just great. I mean, it is top tier Star Trek. You know, William Shatner, Ricardo Montalban, that movie was great. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I understand, and I don't care. This is my favorite sci-fi movie of all time, actually, is Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. I feel like unless you are a Star Trek fan, this movie is underrated, it's underappreciated, it's forgotten about, it's looked down upon because it is Star Trek. This movie was incredible for so many reasons. The ship looked so good, and it wasn't even the Enterprise. The battle scenes, um, the Shakespeare quote that he said at the end. Um, what was it exactly? Something about the dogs of war and revenge is a dish best served cold. That was the first time I ever heard that. And I was like, oh man, that is such a strong line. I'm pretty sure that's Shakespeare. Quote me. Go ahead, you can quote me on that one. Um, and it's such a strong line. So that movie is great. And I don't care that it's Star Trek. In fact, I like it even more because it's Star Trek. Next, we have Top Gun Maverick, and I watched Top Gun 1 before watching this again, which has a great soundtrack, by the way. Especially Heaven in Your Eyes by the Loverboy singer. And although this was kind of a Star Wars remake in a lot of ways, this movie was also top tier. For a remake to come out 30 years later or 40 years later, almost 40 years later, and be this damn good is a rare feat. It is unheard of. To have a movie come out the gate and be as good as this movie was. And it's not going to be particularly compelling. It's not a very um complex drama or anything like that. It's not going to trip your mind out. It's not a psychological type of film. It's just good old-fashioned action. And you cannot go wrong with that sometimes, man. And this hit home. And I don't care if I spoil this one for some people because I think that this might be one reason to go see it. Val Kilmer, it was amazing to see Val Kilmer on this screen again, man. It had been so long since we'd really seen him. And it brought a tear to my eye, actually, because I know his story. And I was never a diehard Val Kilmer fan, but I thought he did a great job in this movie. And I did like him in some other ones. Tombstone, especially. Um, I love John Hamm in this. It was just all around good fun. So yeah, that's another one that I haven't seen it since, but it's kind of one of those. It was great. I don't need to see it again, but I will someday, I'm sure. Next, we have Moonfall. Immediately, absolutely hate this fucking movie. I don't care who it offends. This movie was so dumb. It was dumb. And I went into it with good hopes. I went into it, I was invited to see it, and I sat through it for about an hour before things started to unravel and turn into a giant mishmash of bullcrap. And even throwing Donald Sutherland in there for a cameo couldn't do a single thing to lift this an inch off the ground. Screw this movie. To hell and back. I hated this movie. And I hate it even more because I have to kick myself to the point where I don't even want to admit this. But at the time, I was not quite a big enough fan of old movies. And I didn't speak up, but I should have. And to this day, I still haven't told him. But the guy that invited me to go along, I thought for a good minute about, I don't want to go because this movie is playing in theaters instead. I want to see this pile of shit instead of the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. That's right, guys. Some people say, greatest movie of all time. I'm wearing this shirt right now. Not because it's the greatest movie of all time, but because um I just love Brando. One second. I just love Brando so much. And I wanted a shirt to reflect that. I wasn't a diehard Brando fan at the time. I could go back and change one thing in my life. It would be to never see this fucking movie again and see Godfather instead. And if he didn't want to come with me to go see it, I would have seen it by myself. And I never gone to a movie by myself, ever at this point. And I would have gone and seen it by myself if I could turn back time, like Cher said. Ah, oh well. We all make mistakes, right, guys? I would never do that now. Hell no. Next we have Thor: Love and Thunder. And I was very hyped to go see this movie. Oh, I couldn't wait. Why? Because Guns N' Roses was going to be featured in the MCU. Favorite band of all time. We were going to hear Axl on the big screen. And we sure did. However, that was about the only good thing about this movie. I'm going to say that I didn't like it. Because there was Guns N' Roses involved, I did not absolutely hate it. In fact, that's why we have this particular movie cover. The Appetite for Destruction recreation with the Thor: Love and Thunder movie characters. It got to a point where, Taika Waititi was putting way too much comedy into these types of movies to the point where they were just dumb. They were just so stupid. It wasn't even funny anymore. He was making his characters dumber. Like Lady Sif. Um, not knowing that you have to die in order to get to Valhalla, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it was. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. And Thor, like, no, you do know you have to die. We've had 3 or 4 movies with Lady Sif now. And she doesn't know this? Come on, man. So things like that actually pissed me off. I thought Christian Bale did an oddly good job in the role that he had. Really freaking. I did like the black and white scenes. I like the various GNR references. I know that the kid was named Axel, and I know that there was an Appetite for Destruction poster in the background of his room. Um, but you know, I didn't really like seeing Thor's ass on screen either. I would have much rather seen the Valkyries, personally. Also, Zeus. That was Russell Crowe, right? Um, Terrible. Absolutely terribly written. The whole idea that Zeus wasn't going to do anything because he was scared of the god killer. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? If it was not for Guns N' Roses, I would throw this and I absolutely hated it. I really, really would. That's the only saving grace for this film. The only one. So you're lucky Slash was playing the fucking thing. Because I would have really just thrown that in the fire. Next we have what's the name of this one? Not Far Cry, Uncharted. Uncharted, another game based off of a video game. I'm sorry, another movie based off of a video game. I never played Uncharted. Um, I definitely liked it. I thought it was good. I didn't love it, but I really liked Mark Wahlberg in it. I did like Tom Holland. I know a lot of people are not liking him much anymore, and I don't exactly know why. Tom Holland is either you really love him or you just don't like him for whatever reason. And I am one of the oddballs that's got a middle ground. I like him. He doesn't really blow my socks off either, but he's all right. And I do really like Mark Wahlberg. So overall, I don't remember much of this movie, but I walked away feeling good, and I was glad that I watched it. So there it lands. Next, we have Jaws in 3D, actually. And this was the first 3D movie I'd ever seen. And I loved it. I'm not going to say I'll never forget it, but I loved it. This I saw in Realty 3D, which is why I was able to make such a strong comparison to the Avatar down here in IMAX 3D, which I hated. In Jaws, even though it was um retroactively transformed into this 3D, it blended so well. The blending was so much better than when I saw the IMAX 3D of Avatar. And that's how I was able to tell the difference and realize that this just sucks. But with Jaws, oh, it was great. I loved it because you see the shark just right before your face, man. I mean, it just doesn't get better than that. So I love that. Next, we have Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one. I also loved this. I did not realize who directed this until, about a week ago, if that. Sam Raimi. And it makes total sense because there's a very strong horror aspect to this movie while not making it particularly scary and still family friendly. But I loved the horror in this movie. I thought that Marvel needs to do more of that. They really do. All of that type of symbolism, the zombies and the skulls and everything like that. Why they don't do more of that? Maybe so they don't beat it to death. A lot of people walked away not liking it. Even some of the biggest MCU fans that I know didn't really like it, and I don't understand. I loved it for that horror aspect. I was just blown away. I was like, oh my, I almost want to put it, and I'll never forget it, but it wasn't top tier. I gotta make that distinction. It was not as good as Top Gun Maverick, and I definitely prefer Star Trek Wrath of Khan over it. But for where it stands, I love it, and I cannot wait to watch it again someday. Next, we have Ooh. Next, we have Austin Butler playing Elvis. Without hesitation, I will never forget this movie. Um, this was around the time that I was doing my discographies. I was working in a place where I could listen to music for 6 to 8 hours a day. And I was able to listen to album back to back to back to back. And I listened to every album twice in a row. That way I wasn't, rushing through them. I was actually paying attention and I was, moving songs that I liked into a particular playlist, songs that I hated into another one. And I was really actively listening. And I just finished up the extremely lengthy Elvis discography. And I'm sure there's plenty of songs that I missed because I did a grand total of like 750 or something like that, which really makes 1,500 because I listened to them all twice and then some because some were just so good. Like Just Pretend, It Hurts Me, Kentucky Rain, Suspicious Minds. Obviously, the big hits, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. But Fever, I never heard of. Fever is such a cool song. Maurice the Name is Latest Flame. I'd heard Viva Las Vegas before, of course, and I still love that. Burning Love, you know. And I watched all of this, and by the end, I felt sad. Because I felt like I'd lived and breathed Elvis for the last 2 months. I was singing his songs. And I finally got to Unchained Melody, and my heart just dropped when I watched that watched that video. And then just in time, they come out with a massive, big production Hollywood biopic of Elvis. And I watched Austin Butler for the first time, and he did spectacular. He did so good in this role. And he should have won Best Oscar. I don't know who won it for that year, but he should have won Best Actor Oscar, in my opinion. Oh man, that it really made me like, damn, when I heard that he didn't get it. So, Tom Hanks had a really annoying accent in it, and also the soundtrack was really dumb because they put like all these modern spins on these songs, which really ruined them all. They should have just stuck to the original Elvis songs, honestly. Instead of throwing like Eminem in there on an Elvis track, like why fuck it up? And I like Eminem, but why ruin it? So for those reasons, there were some flaws, but overall, Austin did such a great job. Next, we have the other Avatar. I have this twice because I watched it twice. First, I saw it in IMAX 3D. Hated it. That's why it lands here. And then I discovered a cool thing called 4DX. Now, let me talk about 4DX for a second. 4DX is very sensual. Your seats move or sway, man. Water sprays on you. You can smell the scents that come up. Fog machines, sometimes snow machines, lightning flashes on the walls. As things blow past your ears, they just whiz. Especially like gunfire and things like that. And it's a very wholly immersive experience when you go and see a movie in 4DX. And this is the first time that I'd ever seen it. The movie tickets were not that expensive. They were like 20, maybe 25 bucks per ticket. And I was like, I gotta try this, see what this is about. And it was amazing. That was my first experience. And so while I hated IMAX 3D, I will never forget 4DX. And I love going. This one was actually 3D 4DX and it used the Real D style. So we went back to the Jaws level of 3D. And I remember like when it came out, I was reaching for the jellyfish. It was this close to me, man. I'd never seen anything like it. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I literally like involuntarily reached out to grab some of this, stuff that was floating before my eyes. I was just like, whoa, the world has become alive, and I love seeing stuff in 3D now, as long as it's not IMAX 3D. And finally, we have Avatar: Way of Water. And I put this to the end because I also saw this in 4DX. In the first Avatar, when the fungi came up and he started poking them down, you could smell the fungus. In this one, it still had the same 4DX experience. It was so fun. But for the most part, you were really just rocking like this the whole time. And for a good chunk of it, you really felt Avatar: Way of Water's length. I was feeling to myself, and I do like long movies. I was like, this is really beginning to drag, man. Like, can we wrap this? It doesn't need to be this much. They almost get there, and then boom, something happens. Make it harder, and then they overcome that, and then they get this close, and then boom, something else happens. And it was just like, I don't know, like, can he just get it by now? So, I did like them, and I know that there's more avatars coming out. I cannot wait for the fire one. I'm pretty sure there's a fire one, and I am excited for that because, ooh, that one's gonna be super cool. And I will definitely go see it in 4DX 3D again, without question. However, for this one, Way of Water, it wasn't as good. And so I gotta put it in. I liked it. Um, but in that first one, when he tamed the animal so he could fly, and the wind started picking up at you, and then you started soaring, and the seat started swaying back and forth. Man, it was so good. And then you have Michelle Rodriguez come along with the rest of the army, and she takes off, but he's trying to just murder you, and the feet stomp on the ground in his big machine, and the whole thing rocks. You know, 10 out of 10 experience. It was so fun. Anyways, that's all the movies that I saw in 2022. And so I really appreciate you guys watching this. If you have any comments or feedback, please let me know in the comment section below. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other content as well. So without further ado, I appreciate you tuning in. If this is your first time, thanks for meeting me. If you're a recurring viewer, thanks for coming back again. And I will definitely be putting more content out in the near future. Thank you so much. Peace.